life in business is tough, bro. It ain't for everybody. And I think that's, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or how resourced you are, you're going to hit those walls. And it's what happens when you hit the walls, what happens when the hard times hit. Like, that's when you find out who you are, and that's also when you find out how much you really want something, and that's also when you find out what your core values truly mean to you.
Today on Blue Collar Millionaire, we've got Michael Burns, real estate investor, podcast host, and a guy who's been through it all. From flipping hundreds of homes to losing millions and rebuilding from scratch, Michael's story is all grit and no quit.
Like, are you for sale or are you not? Do you mean the shit that you say all the time, or do you only mean it when it's convenient? Because winning's easy, bro. But when you're losing, that's when you really find out who you are, who other people are.
America's backbone was built on blue-collar business grit, grind, and muscle. This is where you stop working for the business, and the business starts working for you.
All right, Blue Collar Millionaires, Chris and I back. This time we got my good buddy Mike Burns coming in from Salt Lake City, Utah. Thanks for coming in. He came in for our Blue Collar Millionaire event tonight. We got a big event, the Waldorf Astoria. I appreciate it. Mike, thanks for coming on. Tell us what you're up to in Utah and Ohio.
Bro, I'm stoked to be here on the show, and you did my show, what was it, a year ago maybe, out in Salt Lake, so it's cool to come to your hood, have you show me around for the weekend. Dude, we're just trying to make it happen, man, hustling, doing real estate deals, and a lot of real estate deals. My brother and I got a mortgage brokerage, real estate brokerage, but 80-90% of my time's on the real estate deals, either building the rental portfolio or doing flips at high volume.
What percentage of your time spent doing flips, and what did you go from Salt Lake to Ohio? Why?
That's a good question, dude. So I just got pulled there, really, man. I didn't know anything about where I was at in Ohio. Now we're doing deals in the Dayton area. But I used to hold meetups. You spoke at my meetup at my office out there in Salt Lake. So I would have meetups at my office once a month, and the whole goal with that, and probably what you guys are always preaching and talking about, is community and who you're hanging around, and that's how you're going to grow and develop and build relationships and get opportunities of all different sorts. So my partner, and who's become like a little brother to me, Brendan, you know Brendan.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think you met Brendan too. He started coming to my meetups, and then just like all of us, man, when we see a younger dude that's got that hustle in him, they're cut just a little bit different. Like when that's a younger version of you, you identify it and you see it. So I just saw this dude keep showing up, keep doing the right things. He'd come ask me some shit. I'd help him out. He'd go do it, and that's a side note too for anybody listening. If you're on the come up and you're talking to someone who's further down the road from you and they're willing to give you time and energy and give you some advice, like, you better take it before you come back and ask for more, or don't. Like, nothing's more frustrating than, like I come to you for advice, right? If you give me advice and then I don't take it, you're probably less likely to want to help me out next time. So that's just a slight little plug, because one of the biggest things I think you can do is getting a mentor in bigger rooms and stuff. And I know I'm getting to your question, bro. I'm a weaver. I do the weave. So Brendan was coming to my stuff, and then finally he's like, hey, bro, I know I was lending some hard money at the time, and he's like, I got some deals in Ohio. Like, are you interested in funding them? So I looked at these deals, and I was like, there's no way this shit's real, because Salt Lake was one of the hottest markets in the country for 3-4 years. I mean, we went from a 285 median price to like a 650.
Jesus.
Wow.
From like 2018, 2019 to today. That's so crazy. Just got super competitive and razor thin margins, and when you get those larger deals, you gotta have bigger spreads and shit. So I flew out to Ohio and looked at a few of these deals, and I started lending money on the deals, and then him and his partner out there needed a little bit more help, so then I was lending some money and getting a little back end piece, and then dude, it just progressed, and as I've been transitioning through a long, crazy 3-year divorce we can talk about, and just figuring out what's going on in business and pivoting out of the Utah market and stuff, I just saw an opportunity out there in Ohio, just better deals, safer deals. You can be a lot more diversified with the same amount of funds that you're rolling with. So over the course of a couple of years, I started just lending money and then helping out a little bit more. And now I relocated there full time earlier this year. And I'm basically rebuilding everything I did in Salt Lake, but out in Ohio and way bigger scale.
And in Ohio, you can kind of get that 1% rule, or can you with the rentals? But in Salt Lake, it's unheard of.
Yeah, man. And so that's crazy. I mean, that first deal, I lent these cats maybe 60 G's to buy a house, and it was worth 150. they went in and put like 25 grand into it. And I'm like, this is nuts, bro. You guys are pulling cash out, maxing your LTV out, pulling cash out, and it's still cash flowing $400 a month. Like, so I started seeing deals like this that I was lending money on, and I was like, this is what the fuck am I doing in Utah? This is crazy. I just lost $2 million over the last 24 months in my Utah deals, and I was like, this is, what am I doing, you know? So that's what took me out to Ohio, and then so I started going out there, and then I started splitting my time, and now I full-blown live there, and we're just building it.
I got a lot of things to say, so we'll reverse, because you said you lost $2 million in Utah, but we can kind of get to why that happened. It's a lot to do with the market, what happened.
Yeah.
But let's go back to how you and I connected, right? So we met in Tim Bratz's legacy thing, was a mastermind, paid mastermind. Mike and I hit it off. We were night owls. I think that was the first thing, because I used to be up till 4 a.m. working.
Yeah.
And he's a few hours behind, and we would just text each other. We'd both be up, start, bullshit. We made good friends. But it's really like your character and everything. So we became friends on that. And then you were balling when real estate was up. And then things happen in life.
Dude,
divorce, all kinds of different stuff.
Literally everything, bro. And I thought I made it, man, for a hot minute there.
and you could, why don't you, we'll get to what happened in real estate. But why I knew when I was sitting there in Vegas, we went out to the UFC, went to see these fights in Vegas, and Mike kind of had like a bad situation. And I was thinking it was similar to what I had in 2007-8. But I remember leaving. I didn't think I told you, but I was like, he's got the skill set to get out of this. Where I went in 2007, I didn't have the skill set to figure that out. Now I feel like I could get out of the problems I had in 2007. So I was like, he's going to get out of this. It's going to be tough and hairy, but he's going to get out of this. And this is exactly what happened. But let's talk about how you got that way. What did you start doing? It was kind of a crazy job, and then you were successful in that. So then you hit all these walls in that. Then you hit them in real estate, and when you overcome them, it's like hard times are normal for you.
Yeah, bro. I mean, so I'll just take it back, and we'll go through it. You can speed me up or slow me down. So I grew up in a small town called Tehachapi, California. I had to drive 25 minutes to get to school, for real. And my dad had a nursery and a garden center, like landscape company. So that's how I grew up, was a family-owned business. My mom did all the books. My dad worked 7 days a week, and, sometimes he'd make it to games, sometimes he wouldn't. And our mom was just, like super mom. She ran us around all the sports, all the stuff. But growing up in that environment was a huge benefit for me, because we were in the nursery business, family-owned business, small town. So I got exposed to, we went to the bank, dude, and it was like, oh, Mr. Burns over here. My dad wasn't feeling good. He went and got an IV on the porch at the doctor's house. So, I learned the value of relationships, and, just watching my dad my whole life, pick up the phone, and it was whatever it was handled, So he taught me when I was young, your name and your word is all you got, your name and your word. And then he said there's two things money can't buy. It's balls and class, and you have both of them. And
I like that.
He told me that since I could remember, and then just beat into my head, you take care of your family, you're the oldest, all of that stuff. So he was real hard on me and set a huge expectation on me. But that set me up to go into life and be ready for it, And the other big thing too was learning about money and credit, they would work off a credit line, and just understanding how important credit was. So these basic foundational things that I talk about now is literally the only reason, it's the foundation that I built on. So then fast forward, I graduate high school. My dad sold the business. He probably asked me 100 times, are you sure you don't want it? You sure you don't want it? And I was like, dude, I don't want nothing to do with what physical labor. You've had 11 surgeries. I'm good, So went to junior college for a semester, and I was like, this ain't for me. And my dad jokes to me this day, he's like, son, I'll never forget you called me and you said, Dad, I just want to make as much money as I can, as fast as I can, and I don't give a fuck what I do. He's like, that's what you said. And I said, well, I still see, still the truth today, obviously ethics and all that stuff. So I got into, because of my last name, I got an opportunity to work for a company called Monrovia. And they're like the Microsoft of the wholesale nursery world, plants.
Yeah.
So my parents owned retail. I jumped into the wholesale side of the business when I was 19. So I rolled in there. They were doing like 160 million a year, and I was 19 years old, 20 years old, no degree, nothing but a last name, and everyone in there was all mid 30s, horticulture degrees. So like I was hated from the get go just because I was me, younger and whatever. So they got me on the phone. Like I finally got on the phones, and I'll never forget. My first call that I had to make. So I was an inside rep, and I'm building up to like the foundation of everything right now. But I was an inside rep for these outside guys. So I had like 8 territories throughout the country. And I remember, I know, dude, they don't give you sales skills. They don't give you phone skills. They give you nothing. It's like, just get on the phone and you know about the plants, whatever. So I had like a door on my cubicle, and I would hit call, and I had a headset, and I'd run outside, bro, because I didn't want anybody to hear my sales calls. You didn't get practice calls, and everyone can hear everyone.
Yeah.
I'm 20 years old, bro. They're all 15, 20 years older than me, and no one likes me. I shouldn't be there. It's my life. And then, so anyways, like I just started getting better at that. And then I ended up setting a company sales record there, dude. I sold $2 million of plants in a year on my first year there. And then I think I made $58,000 that year because I had a base plus commission. I've never been richer in my life, dude. You make 60 grand at 20 years old, and so I started getting kind of cocky, kind of arrogant. But a really important thing happened for me while I was learning that sales thing. There was a guy named Ken Dykes, and he sat next to me. And one day I came in, and there was a book on my desk, and it was Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. And I'd never read a self-development book, like never been exposed to any sort of anything like that. All my dad did was work. So I read that book, and then probably halfway through the book, another morning I came in, and on the outside of my cubicle was a printed piece of paper sideways, and it had the numbers 2 million on it. And Ken put that on my thing. So I had this dude who saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself, and that's why I pointed out what I did earlier when I was talking about. So this guy, Ken Dykes, man, bought me a book, and then while I'm reading a book about success through a positive mental attitude, and then they talk about visualization, and now I have this $2 million thing, and bro, I sold over $2 million that year, set a company record. And for me to have the experience of a self-development book, and then the visualization thing, and then and doing the work. I mean, I was grinding, bro. I'd come in. I was in Oregon, so I'd come in at like 5 a.m. so I could hit the East Coast guys at 8 a.m. and then I just work the sun, So like I'd start on the East Coast just banging, dude, and then I'd hit my Midwest guys, and then I'd rerun it and try and catch the guys in the late afternoon, evenings, because I kind of learned when managers and buyers and owners would be available, and I would just kind of work that time zone. So I was doing all of that, and then I had these big results. So, I mean, it was undeniable, like the self-development thing. So then a territory came up, which doesn't happen very often, and it was Spokane, Washington, and like Central British Columbia. And part of that was already my territory. So I applied for it to get the outside territory. And that's like the big ballin' position, right? Like 10% commission, I'm probably going to make, dude. That territory, I think, was like 1.5 million. So I was like, bro, I'll be making 150 grand if I get this thing. Like, hell yeah, I'm going to. So I was stoked. And the other guy that applied for it, dude, I outsold him, outworked. Like, I was just straight up better than him in every single way. But they gave it to him because he was from that area and he had been there for like 4 or 5 years, And I understand seniority and I respect it, but I'm like, dude, this is sales. Like, we're talking about money here. Like this, I sold double what this fool did. Like, fuck this. So I ended up quitting, and I went and became a broker. So there's this guy, Leo Gentry, who was like 1,000-acre nursery out of Oregon. And he gave me the territory or the exclusive rights for British Columbia, Alberta, up in Canada. I had like Eastern Washington, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Oklahoma, Texas, and Utah. That was the territory this dude gave me. 0 customers, 10% commission, and I had a $3,000 a month draw. So I moved out to Salt Lake. I wasn't old enough to rent a car at the time, so Utah was in the middle, and I drove everywhere, bro. So I would go on like 14-day road trips, and I had to pay my own way too. So I'd hop on hotels.com, and I'd just get the cheapest one, dude, $29, $35, $40. And if I was staying at Super 8, I was balling for real. Like, that was like a nice hotel stay for me. But a lot of times I would pull up and Billings, Montana, and I'd Google all the nurseries and I'd put them into MapQuest, and dude, I'd do 15 to 20 cold calls a day, just show up unannounced. I had a little photo album book that I took at the nursery of the plants, like how nice that shit was. And I'd show up with that and a catalog and a specials list that I highlighted and make big notes, like good deal. Just all this, learning as I go.
Yeah.
And I'd roll up and be like, hey, is the owner here? Is the manager here? Dude, I'd get asked, I swear to God, one time this lady in Oklahoma, she's like, are you even old enough to drive? I was like, yeah, and I drove here to talk to your dad. Is he here? And I'd like to speak with him. And so anyways, but right when I quit Monrovia and started doing this, that's when '08 hit. But I didn't, you're 20, 21. I had no idea what that meant. And that, so I was going out in an environment where people were doing 50% of the business they were, super relationship, good old boys club. And my stuff was some of the most expensive there was out there. So I didn't know, I just didn't know all of those variables, which is probably good. So I did that for like 4 years, but I would sleep in my car. Like I would drive, if I wasn't working where I was at the next day, I didn't stay there. So dude, I would work all day and then I would drive, bro, to the next town. And then I just post up at a rest stop. Sometimes it'd be like, I remember one time it was -3 in northern Montana. And I just like left my car running. I'd sleep in the back of the car and then I'd get ready at the rest stop, pound some energy drinks and go bang 20 more cold calls. And I would go on like 2-week road trips doing that. And I built that into like $500,000 in sales. And then, so I spent like 6 months on the road traveling. And then my brother hit me up one time and he's like, hey, are you going to be in town this weekend? There's a free house flipping workshop. You want to go to it? And I was like, yeah, let's go. So we went to it, we signed up for their package and all that stuff. We went and learned the basics, and then fast forward, back up. So we did the free one, and then we did like the $1,500 weekend. And then when you're at the $1,500 weekend, they bring in these piece of shit sales guys that don't do anything of what they say, and they pitch their $40,000 bus tour. You're going to come out to LA, we're going to show you around for 2 days, you're going to learn everything you need to know, there's going to be hard money lenders there, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And now that I know what I know, like you can't teach anybody nothing in 2 days and get them all set up. So, bro, I maxed out a credit card at the event to put a down payment on this bus tour. Yeah. And then we told my dad, and he was like, son, if you ever listen to me, please just don't go spend 40 grand that you don't have. Me and my brother are like, nah, man, our back will be against the wall. We're going to have to perform. We're going to have to make shit happen. So anyways, we ended up not doing it. We got our thing back. And then I hit the local RIAs, Real Estate Investors Association, and we started going to that. And then after I was hanging around there for a year and picked up a couple mentors there, we wrote 94 offers, me and my brother, over the course of a year, 94 offers. And then on the 95th one, we finally got our first deal. And we made 24 grand on that deal. The way the money came together was crazy too. I'll side note because it's important on follow-up, but we were at just a local weekend workshop get together or whatever. And I always tell everyone, go introduce yourself. All you got to do, even if you're shy, just go say, hi, I'm Michael. What do you do? Because networking is like everything you want's coming through other people. So I went up, there was this guy, and I was noticing him. He's older. He was shy in the back corner, and I did that. I went up, and I was like, hey, man, I'm Michael. What's going on? And he's like, oh, hey, Michael, I'm Gary. I was like, what are you doing, Gary? He's like, I just sold my business to IBM, and I'm looking to maybe start lending hard money. We're trying to figure it out. And I was like, well, shit. I just started flipping houses, and I'm looking for hard money lenders. I'd love to connect with you and whatever. And he lived like 3 hours south of me. And this is where law of attraction and all that stuff comes into play too. I'm weaving. No. So I got Gary's info, and this is on a Saturday, and he mentioned, okay, well, I have grandkids up here or whatever. Well, what I did is I followed up with Gary on Monday. Most people don't do that. Yep. I called Gary on Monday, and I said, hey, Gary, it was great meeting you and your wife. This is Michael. You met me and my brother Tyler at the RIA event over the weekend. Just wanted to follow up with you, and I know you mentioned your kids live up here. You come up to see your grandkids. I'd love to have lunch with you next time you're in the area. And he's like, well, we're going to be up there in 2 weeks. How about we do it on, that Saturday? And I was like, all right, cool. And we picked a place. But that follow-up call on Monday, after I got this dude's info, literally set up my entire career. So anyways, we go. So we're having this lunch on Saturday, And then on Friday night, this dude calls me, who I also met at the real estate investors group. And he's like, hey, I got this deal. Buyer backed out. Are you interested? And we hadn't done a deal yet. I said, yeah, bro, I'm definitely interested. He's like, all right, cool. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you tomorrow morning. So I rolled up, met him. Dude, there's like 18 inches of snow. It's November in Salt Lake. And I walked this house with this wholesaler. And, dude, I took his word on everything. What the ARV was, like how much the rehab was going to be. He had a bid from so-and-so, and, you know, this is what the price is. And I'm sitting there having no idea what I'm doing at all, you know, but I'm like, all right, cool. That sounds good. Yeah. So, yeah, man, I agree with you. So I'm just sitting there, and then he's like, well, here's the catch, man. It's got to close on Monday, and it's Saturday. You know, I've never done a deal, and the deal closes on Monday, or it doesn't happen at all. So I play it off. I'm like, all right, man, well, let me run my numbers and I'll get back to you later today. Well, I had that meeting with Gary already lined up for later that afternoon.
Yeah.
So me and my brother rolled to the thing, and I got this deal, and we sat down with Gary and his wife, and it was me and my brother. I told my brother, bring his son was like, I don't know, 6 months old. I'm like, bring Nija, dude, it's going to help us. Because, you know, we got to look as legit as we can over here. We're good guys asking for money. So anyways, we have the lunch, and we get up, and we're leaving, and I bitched out, dude, and I didn't say anything about the deal. And we stood up, and we're all leaving and saying goodbye, and there was this voice. It was like, it is now or never. And I just spit. I probably sounded retarded. I was like, we have a deal. And he's like, it was probably sounded that abrupt and ridiculous. And he looked at me, and he's like, huh? I said, we actually have a deal if you want to talk about it. Sat down with this dude for an hour over lunch, and I was too scared to pitch the deal, bro. Because I got all the info about it an hour before meeting with him, you know? And he's like looking at me like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, so we sit back down, and I'm like, yeah, here's the deal. Like, I've been working on it. I just like confirmed some things this morning, and, you know, this is what the numbers are. I can send you whatever. And so anyways, I pitched a deal to him, and him and his wife, they're like, all right, we'll get back to you guys. We'll get back to you. And I'm like, that's not happening. So he calls me back a few hours later, and he's like, hey, so we talked about it. And he's like, we're going to take a chance on you and your brother, and we'll fund that deal on Monday.
Wow.
And like, dude, I've done a lot of deals at this point in the game. And like, I could do something like see a deal Saturday and close it Monday. Like, but to do that on your first deal, and that's just, I know for sure that's the hard work, the effort, the skills, the building relationships, the follow-up, like doing all the right shit for enough time. Like, I caught a break and I got lucky, you know? And we did that deal. We made $24,000 on it. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Bad appraisals, had to fire the contractor. He put a faulty lien on the house. Like, it was just, we were doing landscaping ourselves. But anyways, we made 24 grand on it. And I was like, this is what I'm doing, bro. And I walked away from the thing I'd been doing, the broker business for the previous 4 years. So did that, and that was in 2012. Fast forward, I've probably done 450 to 500 flips, you know, and, you know, got a pretty good sized portfolio, lend hard money, retail brokerage, the mortgage brokerage with my brother. And then I've got participated in some business acquisitions, and now I'm just trying to make it happen on another level, dude.
I love it.
So
That was deep.
That's a hell of a story.
I know,
The
I was like, I'm
endurance
leaving,
level.
bro.
Yeah.
Dude,
But no,
yeah.
that's it. The reason you are where you are, though, is because you never quit. And a lot of people just don't have that endurance. Like,
yeah.
what kept? Was it just like, I got nothing else to go back to? What kept the endurance?
I mean, at what the endurance thing, and like, there's been different motivators, you know, depending on where I've been at. But I mean, when I was out selling trees, it was like, dude, like, I just walked away from the best gig I could have had at the biggest, baddest company. I told them to fuck off, you know, because I thought I was a hot shot. And then, so I had to make it happen, dude. Like, failing's not an option, you know. That's plan B is reinforcing plan A is like my life motto. So, and then also, like, when I mean, I'll never forget I slayed it on the phone. And I remember I used to joke around with my dad. I'd be like, dude, when I'm face to face with these guys, it ain't even going to be fair. Like, I was just cocky, you know, but I was kicking ass when I was 20, 21. But I remember pulling up to it because I got no established customers. And I was in Meridian, Idaho, and I pulled up to my first cold call, man. And dude, all that confidence was gone. All that cockiness was gone. All that track record was gone. It was like, today's day one for real. And I sat in the parking lot for probably 15 minutes just trying to get myself amped up enough to like grab my little book and go in and have the balls to ask for the owner, you know?
Yeah.
And I just got a little bit better every time. And then while I was doing that, I started listening to Brian Tracy. I bought his sales cassette, and I would just bang those things, dude, over and over and over. And so then I was learning about sales, and Brian Tracy talks a lot about time management and keeping lists and prioritizing. But the resilience piece, that's where a lot of that came from, man, was just having to overcome the fear of like walking in and cold calling another place, dude, on another day when I've had nothing but losses for this whole time. And then now we're in this recession that I didn't even understand was a thing. And it was hard, dude, but I just kept showing up and having a little bit of success, and then there'd be issues. And I think just feeling like, what else am I going to do? Like getting a job's not an option at this point, you know? And like my dad and my grandpa were both super successful in that business. So like, there's no way I wasn't going to not be at least something. So that's where that came from. And then in real estate, man, dude, you owe people money. You owe hard money guys money. You know, there's just a lot there that you're responsible for. You know, you take on a bunch of debt. Like to this day right now, bro, I'm maxed. I'm all in, dude. I'm all in all the time. So like you just have to, when you're betting on yourself and you're literally putting, I mean, that first flip, I took every dollar I had saved, like all of it.
Yeah.
And that was enough to pay for the labor, which was like 25 grand. And then that's all the money we had, dude, was like my 25 G's. That was it. So then it was like 5 grand at Home Depot, 2,500 at Lowe's. Oh, Floor and Decor will give me 1,500. Fucking Discover, give me 2,500. And I just maxed that shit out, dude. And I've been doing that for 12 years, 15 years.
That's how I started, and I still play that. Like Christy, my wife, asked me not long ago, she was like, hey, when are we ever going to just know it's okay and you stop spending all the money? And I was like, we're still climbing the mountain, and like there's still a level of risk I'm willing to take. And so I just constantly keep it thrown out there. Yeah. And maybe one day I'll hit Gutter King level to where there's just like a larger cushion, but there's just enough cushion to just make sure things keep flowing for a month or two, because it makes you have to grind it. Like there's no quit. Yeah. There's not an option to quit.
Yeah, dude. But bro, that cushion's a fucking illusion of your mind.
Oh, it is. It is.
I remember, let me tell you a story. I remember driving home from my office to my house on the mountain, dude, $1.5 million house in Utah, beautiful view. Did the badass remodel, so proud of it. I'm driving home in my Ferrari that I just bought. And I was thinking, and this was one of the very, very few times in my life where I was like, I'm okay. Everything's okay. Like, I'm living way below my means. I got an awesome house, dude, tons of equity in it, a 2.9 rate. Like, I driving a Ferrari and it doesn't even make a difference in my account. You know, Rolex watch, we're traveling a lot, married, all that stuff. And I remember driving, there was a split second where I felt like safe for the first time. And I mean, this is probably, dude, I was 34, 35, and I've been at this since I was 19. So for the first time in 15 years or so, I was like, just a little bit of breath there, bro. And 2 months later, man, divorce, bad market, Ferrari gone, house gone, country club gone, my dog fucking dies. Like, I'm living in my little sister's basement thinking, what the fuck just happened? Yeah. Just like that, dude, matter of a month. Yeah. So that's kind of what he was talking about when the Vegas thing. So adversity is the hardest thing you'll ever do and go through, but it's the greatest gift you can ever have too, man, because when you get on the other side of adversity and you do a life test and you realize you're still alive, for me, when I've gone through that, my confidence is on a whole nother level, because I'm like, I just made it through all of that. Like, I'm like,
there's self-belief in you that most people never.
And
never
there's
get
just different levels to that, you know. And I'm kind of on the middle tail end of another one of those level up scenarios. But it's like, you know, you were saying one of your favorite stories earlier. So when the divorce went down, I mean, bro, I got an email, dog. Like, there was nothing. Like, I was at the gym, bang, email, check my bank account, all the money's gone. get hit with a temporary protective order, can't go to your house, and I'm like going off on a business trip. Everything's clean, like nothing, there was nothing bad there, but that's how it went down. So then I come back from a business trip, dude, and like I literally have a duffel bag, my backpack, and like one of those little office boxes, like you got fired, with all my business shit in it, and had to bounce from my house. I haven't been back other than one time when I had to put my dog down. And so I went to my little sister's house. So I go from mansion on the mountain, making a couple $1,000,000, driving a Ferrari, to living in my little sister's basement, you know, trying to like process what's even happening. And then, so I was there for like maybe a month. I was like, I couldn't do that anymore. So I go and I rented this townhouse that was by my office at the time. And I remember sitting in this cool townhouse, and it's empty, bro. And the whole main level is like the kitchen, the living room, the dining room. It's tall ceilings, and it's just echoey. And I'm sitting in the middle of that thing on a Home Depot bucket, and I have nothing in there, no furniture, nothing. Crying, man, just like, what is, you know, what, like, I went from the, like, having my bed, all I did was win, bro, every year after year after year after year from the time I was born. I did better every year, more money, more success, more everything. And then it was all like gone, and I'm sitting there in this townhouse on this Home Depot bucket just crying, man. And it just came into me, and it's like, I'm not a bitch and I'm not a quitter. And I probably said that to myself 100 times that day. I'm not a bitch and I'm not a quitter. I'm not a bitch and I'm not a quitter. And I just kept saying it until I kind of believed it. And then I just pumped myself up. And that was like my life motto, dude, moving forward through that time. And then also, you know, my plan B is reinforcing plan A. Yep. And those two things, that's just how I look at it, dude. It's like, when you're all in, bro, you're all in, you know? Like, what else are you going to do? I'm unemployable. I got a skill set that I'm good at. So, like, what else are you going to do other than keep going? So, adversity, though, it'll be, I think it's the greatest thing anybody can have is adversity. I agree 100%. Because you find out who you are. And on the other side of that, like, you're just on a whole nother level.
There's a skill set that's built in it that there's no other way to get that skill set, that belief system in yourself.
No, dude, you can't read it. You can't borrow. I mean, maybe you can borrow it. Like, I'm coming here this weekend hanging out with you guys, and I'm going to borrow some ballerness from Kevin over here. Yeah. But no, man, like you know, this entrepreneur journey, this self-development journey, spiritual journey, like, it's you, yourself, and I, you know, and that's why it's so important to have the people around you, you know, because that has such a massive impact on. And that's why people are flying in from all over the country to do your dinners, and why I'm here and stoked and grateful to be on your guys' show, and hopefully, you know, share some stuff that helps other people, because life in business is tough, bro, and it ain't for everybody. And I think that's, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or how resourced you are. You're going to hit those walls. And it's what happens when you hit the walls. What happens when the hard times hit. Like, that's when you find out who you are, and that's also when you find out how much you really want something, and that's also when you find out what your core values truly mean to you. Like, are you for sale or are you not? Yeah. Do you mean the shit that you say all the time, or do you only mean it when it's convenient? Because winning's easy, bro. Yeah. But when you're losing, like, that's when you really find out who you are, who other people are.
True story.
Well, that's the truth. We see when everybody's winning, when real estate, because real estate's like that. That's why real estate people go up really fast, they come down really fast. Yeah. That happened to me too, where business is more of it kind of is a nice thing. Like, when real estate's going down, like it was in Utah, when there's nothing you can do.
Dude.
That's how I felt in New Jersey, when, like, literally I had all these properties I have to sell, and they're literally trading for less every week. Every day. And then there's 82 open houses. There's 177. Dude, there's 400. And I'm like, what is going on here? You can't do it. Whereas business, you can say, I'm going to just start calling people. I'm going to walk in more places. Like, you can kind of control that a little bit. Yeah. But when everything's going up, we saw it with real estate around when everything was going up in the multifamily. We were around a lot of those people. Everybody was boasting the pictures. It's crickets now.
Yeah. Interest rates were so low, it was easy to win on that. And and I also, you know, there's timing. It's cyclical. So people are starting to exit that had maintenance deferred, and they were older. We're going through that baby boomer. And it's not just happening on the businesses, also in your commercial multifamily stuff, because that's operated more like a business. You're seeing those people exit. So there was deals to be made because the interest rates made it, but those variable rates are crushing.
Bro, we
folks.
got Caleb, Marty, and I got a deal straight from hell, bro. This deal came straight from hell. But we're getting close on it. But dude, we bought that thing at a 4.25% rate, and we had like a construction bridge loan on it. And now the first recast, we went to 9.5. So like, dude, we go from a payment of like 11 or 12 grand to like 18 G's, and that on a 40 unit building is substantial, you know. Plus we're going through the value add process, or even on, you know, like in 22 when rates were 3% at the beginning of the year and 7%, 7.5% at the end of the year, especially in the markets like here, Salt Lake, where your average price is 600 grand, dude, that half point, 1 point, that moves the needle a ton on a payment, you know.
Absolutely.
I got stuck with like a bunch of deals when that happened. And like Kevin was saying, it's like everybody's dropping. Everyone's saying, hey, we'll buy your rate down. We'll do whatever. And it's just a race to the bottom. When you're buying shit on hard money, that's hard to do.